What I can tell you is that we had hoped to be carrying the statement from the British Prime Minister Theresa May after what was billed as being a close to 3-hour meeting. But in fact, it is overrunning. We think it's going to overrun by an hour or two. I think we can easily say, therefore, that there is some real strong discussion. I mean, she is under pressure, not just from Brexiteers within her cabinet. Indeed, there are names circulating of possible resignations. The ones that we have heard as possibly going to happen are junior ministers, not key ministers. And clearly, this is the Prime Minister selling, if you will, needing the backing of her cabinet. The fact that she is going to be making a statement is certainly because as ministers come out, whatever the result is of this crunch meeting, billed as being the most important of her premiership since she took over from David Cameron, who had called for the referendum, wanted the UK to stay in the EU and didn't get that. This is a Prime Minister who very much says she is on track to deliver that Brexit deal, that we are closer today. So clearly she wants to get her version out into the British media before ministers, even if they don't walk, start talking.
What are the possible scenarios? Is this an all or nothing moment?
It depends if there are resignations, and it depends if there is a key minister or two. I mean, if she was to lose her Brexit minister, which is not one of the names circulating, Dominic Raab, he's only been in the post for 6 months. He's supposed to help her get the deal and secure the deal. If it was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, that's not likely because he's more of a Remainer. But if it was Liam Fox, for example, the Trade Secretary, that would be very damaging. Even if it was the Environment Minister, Michael Gove, a prominent Brexiteer. So the scenario is that either those Brexiteers don't, despite the cries from Boris Johnson, the former Foreign Secretary, and other prominent Brexiteer, or the leader of the ERG, the European Research Group, Jacob Rees-Mogg, absolutely within minutes yesterday afternoon of this draft withdrawal agreement being agreed on the technical side, now needing political validation, they were immediately getting their message out. And I think it was a message not just for the public, but really to tell those people in the cabinet, this is your time to jump. This is your time. This is a bad deal. And of course, the words that come back again and again are about taking back control, about sovereignty. They feel this is a betrayal. Boris Johnson often, and indeed Jacob Rees-Mogg, refer to Britain becoming a vassal state where they would have to, particularly during the transition, have to take the regulations that would be decided by others, the remaining 27, and not the United Kingdom. There is no doubt. We've often said it was crunch time. This is crunch time. And of course, Brussels holding its collective breath, the ambassadors waiting for the end of this cabinet meeting and hoped for political validation by the Prime Minister. Of course, the ultimate political validation she will need is that of Parliament. And there, the maths simply, François, do not add up. She's got the DUP, who very much are saying they would vote against this deal. She's got rebels within her own party, not just the ERG, saying they'd vote against it. She would absolutely need Labour rebels to get this through. And that could be, if this all goes forward after a possible, an EU summit at the end of November, this could be around the 7th of December, we think.
Benedicta, you mentioned the DUP, the Northern Irish Unionists who are propping up Theresa May's minority government. The Irish First Minister cautiously pessimistic of her chances, Arlene Foster's chances of supporting the draft agreement. Let's listen.
But if all of the UK is in the customs union and there is a review provision, you've got 2 out of 3. That isn't bad.
We would stay in the single market, whereas the rest of the United Kingdom would not. And we would have a democratic deficit insofar as we would be taking rules from the European Union and would have no way in influencing those rules. So it's not a case of 2 out of 3, therefore we can go ahead. It's a question of whether we're separating the union, whether we are dealing with the United Kingdom in a way that leaves us adrift in the future. And as the leader of unionism in Northern Ireland, I'm not about to agree to that.
Now, when Foster spoke, she hadn't yet read those 500 pages of the draft agreement. How is it looking, though, on that score?
Well, nobody outside the government has read that. That's why when all these Brexiteers were speaking on camera yesterday and occupying the airwaves, radio, TV, whether it's British or international, they haven't read it either. The only people who've actually currently read it, apart from the Prime Minister and her closest advisors, are the fact that every minister who has been greeted, or summoned even to 10 Downing Street over the last not even 24 hours, to meet the Prime Minister in person, one-to-one. Some people said that was an exercise in picking them off. And of course, what we were hearing there from Arlene Foster is very interesting because apparently a journalist, a British journalist, earlier on this afternoon asked her directly as she arrived from Belfast into London, were they still in what is called officially here the confidence and supply agreement with the government. And that is, it's not a coalition, it's basically a junior partnership to prop up this Conservative minority government as a result of the election that Theresa May called last year and failed to win outrightly. And Arlene Foster did not confirm that they were prepared to go forward and actually back the government. So all kinds of scenarios being evoked. So far, no resignations. Let's see if we get some, and if they are are they from key posts? We don't think so. But the night, I think, is going to be very long here in London and also in Brussels.
And we'll be crossing back to you. EU. We'll be crossing back to Bénédicte Paviot, reporting live there from Downing Street in the heart of Westminster.